Ich freue mich ganz, ganz sehr doll, dass Gülsün Karamustafa heute hier ist. It's a pleasure to have you here, Gülsün.
It's my pleasure.
After such a long time, weil wir wirklich sehr lange diesen Vortrag geplant haben, fast 3 Jahre, und diesen Wunsch gehabt haben, dass sie heute hier ist und spricht. Denn es ist im Grunde genommen noch, ja, es geht zurück auf die Zeit vor 3 Jahren, als wir die Neupräsentation der Sammlung eingerichtet haben und da eben auch ihre Arbeit. Ganz kurz, just some words about the presentation and your work downstairs. Also es war nämlich der lang gehegte Wunsch, Sie einzuladen, weil Sie dort eben eine Arbeit nicht nur zeigt, die in unserer Sammlung ist, sondern weil wir diese Ausstellung auch John Dewey gewidmet haben. Und das war eine Idee der Kollegin Janice Mitchell, die auch die Idee hatte, dass wir alle Künstler und Künstlerinnen bitten, ein Statement zu geben zu John Dewey. Und es war interessant, dass alle sehr, sehr stark reagiert haben, weil John Dewey ja nicht unbedingt mehr für alle, wie für mich, die bekannteste Figur ist, aber er hat der Kunst eine große Bedeutung eingeräumt, und zwar in der Entwicklung einer vielfältigen Gesellschaft von aufgeklärten, selbstbewussten Individuen, die sich als Teil demokratischer Prozesse sehen. Er erkannte in der Kunst eine Verdichtung von gemachten individuellen und gesellschaftlichen Erfahrungen und ging davon aus, dass diese in der Rezeption aktiviert werden können. Also mit anderen Worten, Kunst zu erfahren bedeutet auch an Erfahrungen teilzuhaben, also selbst Erfahrungen zu machen. Und diese thematische Ausrichtung, da hat auch Gülsün sehr stark darauf reagiert, erstmal mit den Worten, das sei jetzt nun nicht unbedingt ihr Philosoph, aber die Frage nach der Vermittlung sei sehr stark ihre. Ja, also die Dorfschulen in der Türkei nach dem Vorbild vom sowjetischen Ausbildungssystem, das Bauhaus, was sich auch eben in der Türkei niedergeschlagen hat, das waren für sie wesentliche Impulse, und sie selbst hat eben auch an einer Schule für angewandte Künste lange Zeit unterrichtet, die nach dem Vorbild vom Bauhaus ausgerichtet war. Also Kunst machen und Kunst lernen, also beides Felder, die in der Türkei ja sehr umkämpft waren und womöglich noch sind. Und ich freue mich, dass Gülsün über beides sprechen wird, also über die Bedeutung, Kunst zu machen und Kunst zu lernen in der Türkei. Das ist ein Land, das immer wieder von Militärputschen und Umbrüchen geprägt worden ist. Also die heftigsten 1971 und 1980, und genau in dieser Zeit wurde Gülsün Karamustafa auch der Reisepass entzogen, sodass sie eben 16 Jahre lang nicht ins Ausland reisen konnte, erst 1986 wieder. Und das wirkte sich natürlich auch direkt auf ihre künstlerische Arbeit aus. Also dennoch gehört sie zu denjenigen, die das Augenmerk eher auf die Öffnung als auf das Eingeschlossensein richten. Also bei uns können Sie ja die Arbeit Presentation of an Early Representation von 1996 sehen. Und Karamustafa wählte für ihre Installation eine Vorlage aus einem sogenannten Manierenbuch des 16. Jahrhunderts, mit tagebuchartigen Aufzeichnungen eines Reisenden, eines europäischen Reisenden durch die Türkei aus, damals natürlich noch das Osmanische Reich. Und die Bilder ließ er die Schilderung ließ er von einem Maler anfertigen, der ihn auf der Reise begleitete. Und in dieser frühen Version orientalistischer Darstellung sind nun Frauen in europäischen Kleidung oder nackt gezeigt, wie auf einem Bazar werden sie als Ware angeboten. Und wie der Titel der Arbeit deutlich macht, geht es ihr um den Akt des Ausstellens. Sie macht ihn bewusst, indem sie das Bild mit Fragen konfrontiert, die an sie als Künstlerin aus Istanbul häufig herangetragen werden. Und diese Fragen beinhalten Annahmen und Werturteile, die alte Gegenüberstellung eines vermeintlich zivilisatorischen Westens gegen die Vorstellung eines mysteriösen, bedrohlichen Ostorients aufrufen. Also die Fragen, die sich an uns, an die Betrachterinnen richten, stehen in großen Lettern unter der Reproduktion des alten Gemäldes. Warum erzähle ich das? Mir ist es wichtig, nochmal zu betonen, dass Gülsün Karamustafa sehr unterschiedliche Perspektiven in den Blick nimmt und sie bewusst macht. Mit ihrer Kunst, die von Malerei über Installationen und Videos reicht, geht sie gesellschaftlichen Veränderungen nach und deckt sie auf. Und all dies macht sie zu einer der bedeutendsten Künstlerinnen unserer Zeit. Sie hat sehr, sehr viele Ausstellungen gemacht. Ich möchte nur eine besonders hervorheben, die war beim Abendmuseum und man konnte sie tatsächlich trotz Corona dann auch besuchen. Eine wunderbare Ausstellung und sie erhielt viele Preise, nur die sie im letzten Jahr erhielt, nämlich den Prinz-Claus-Preis der Niederlande und den Roswitha-Haftmann-Preis. Aber jetzt freue ich mich mit Ihnen auf den Vortrag und please give a warm welcome for Gülsün Karamustafa.
It all started with an interview between me and Barbara Engelbach on the occasion of a project dedicated to the American philosopher and educational reformer John Dewey. This exhibition you can still see downstairs. I was very surprised to see it because I thought it was closed for a long time, and it was wonderful for me to see it downstairs. Actually, also, I owe this talk to the very brilliant questions that Barbara Engelbach asked me throughout our correspondence, because she was interviewing me in a way, and I was writing a big text for her to put on the board of this exhibition. And that was a great thing for me, When I sent her the image documentation file together with my answers, the idea of making the small film appeared, and it was the heavy days of Corona, and as you can see, it is Istanbul with no one on the streets, which is really interesting, And the organization was made like this, that Anna Ansone, my editor, was in Riga because of the Corona, and we joined her online to make the film editing, and the film came into life and was shown in the exhibition space in the end. Let's begin with John Dewey, the American philosopher, psychologist, and educational reformer whose ideas have been influential in the education and social reform. He was one of the most prominent American scholars in the first half of the 20th century. He is here how we link him into our story, the story of Turkey, I mean. In 1924, the Turkish Ministry of Education invited Dewey to observe and analyze the Turkish existing educational system and make recommendations for reconstructing and organizing it. Dewey accepted this invitation with enthusiasm and came to Turkey. His visit was at a time of a social, cultural, and political transformation. After spending 2 months analyzing the educational system, Dewey prepared reports. He made specific recommendations for the formation and execution of educational plan, the development of schools as community centers, the reorganization of the Ministry of Public Instruction, the training and treatment of teachers, the definition of the school system, the improvement of health and hygienic issues in schools, the improvement of discipline, the other areas of schooling. These reports constituted a comprehensive theory for public education. This talk is not going to be only about John Dewey, but I thought it would be a good idea to introduce his relationship in the beginning, what we are going to talk about, and about the changes in the schooling system of our country. Next. I continue with my own story. I graduated from the State Academy of Fine Arts in Istanbul in 1969, and this is the academy building that I graduated from. By then, it was the only school of its kind, and whoever had dreams of continuing with art education had to come to Istanbul and take the entrance examinations that consisted of several steps. It was a hard trial, as they only received 10 students for sculpture, 15 students for painting, 30 for decorative arts department that covered the branches of interior decoration, theater design, textile, ceramics, and graphic design. Also, for the architecture section, the quota was only 20 students. Next. Osman Hamley Bay is a very interesting figure in our art history. The history of the Academy of Fine Arts go back to the year 1882, to the Ottoman Empire, and it was founded by Osman Hamley Bay, the art historian, archaeologist, architect, and a painter. Very colorful, interesting, and prominent figure in Ottoman Empire, who had connections to the Western art world, also an Orientalist painter himself. He was also the founder of archaeology museums in Istanbul. Next, please. Osman Hamdi studied painting in Paris under Gustave Boulanger and Jean-Léon Gérôme, two prominent artists in the French Orientalist school. During his lifetime, his artwork was displayed more frequently in Europe than in Turkey. Next. This is a painting, the Orientalist style of Osman Hamdi is very obvious. Next. And this other painting is a very interesting one, because in this painting, as we said before, some of his paintings are lost. This is one of the lost paintings. This is a woman, and he's giving a great position to the woman. She's a pregnant woman sitting on a throne-like thing. This is called the altar. The name of the painting is altar. And also, as you see, there are some books under her feet. And we never know what books are these. Are these religious books? Are these philosophy books? So there is an ambiguous situation with this painting, which reminds us to think of Osman Hamdi in a larger way. Yeah. In 1914, it was also necessary, next please. In 1914, it was also necessary to establish another school for girls. Strong women artists of the time started to teach there. In 1926, the two schools combined together under the name of Fine Arts Academy of Istanbul. Next, please. The school was a French-style fine arts academy following the similar educational rules. By the time I entered the Fine Arts Academy painting department in 1964, the trends were more towards the abstract paintings, though there were few studios that followed the classical painting education. Next, please. So we see the Academy, a picture from 1927. Next. Yeah, a cour du soir room. Next. Yeah, and this is a very nice picture of our teachers. Probably they're teasing their position, you know, with the naked model, and some of them are lying, some of them are not. And I love this painting, so I wanted to show it to you as well with my talk. Yeah. Yes, the next. Next. Next, please. Yeah. As the students, we had so many reasons to oppose the system of education, as we always wished to update ourselves with the new trends that were discussed in the world. By mid-60s, understanding in art had already passed beyond abstraction, which was taught in the academy. I owe so much to my education in the State Academy of Fine Arts, mainly drawing skills, strict rules of studying anatomy, perspective, as well as history of Eastern and Western arts, philosophy, mythology classes that were experienced in the first years were great achievement not many art students can get nowadays. Later, I was lucky that I had a permissive teacher who only taught me how to be the artist without putting strict rules. With my curiosity and intentions, I served the political incidents for a while by making agitprop posters, drawings for revolutionary newspapers, and that accumulation, I believe, opened up my horizon to the multi-layered contemporary way of thinking as an artist. Actually, we had some problems. I was thinking to make all the pictures from my computer, but now I have to tell our friend on the other side to change the pictures. So I make groups and we go quickly over them. Yes, next. Next. Next. Next. Yeah. Towards the end of my academy years, that affected us most was the '68 movement that started from Paris. Beginning in May 1968, a period with demonstrations, general strikes, as well as the occupation of universities and factories started from France. At the height of events, which have since become known as '68 movement, the students, intellectuals, workers were demonstrating against capitalism, consumerism, and American imperialism and traditional institutions. It showed us the way how to protest and to question the system. In those years, we all believed that we had the power to change the world. Yes, next, please. Next. Next. Next. Yeah. Yeah. Next. Throughout my last year in school, nearly all university students in Turkey were thoroughly politicized. They were on the streets with their demands and clashing with the police from time to time. With the decision of the boycott committee we constituted in June '68, as students, we occupied the school and kept it under control for 1 month and insisted upon our demands. In the end, as a group of occupiers, we all were put to court. With the positive testimonies of our teachers, because they were really backing us in some ways, because the educational system was really down, and our demands were very reasonable by the time. So our teachers had the same belief, and that they thought the academy needs reforms, and we were acquitted in the end. So many things changed in the following years, and we no more have the State Academy of Fine Arts now, because after these demands of the students, they changed the status of the academy, and now we only have the Mimar Sinan University, and the Fine Arts Academy does not exist anymore. Actually, that does not resemble in structure or in educational systems or understanding. It does not match with the Fine Arts Academy at all. So it's a pity for me. Next, please. Next. These are the days that we have passed through during the occupation of our school, and also the police attacks and things like that. Next. The demonstrations were continuing, and every day there were clashes on the streets, like in Paris. Yeah, next. And next. But unlike the situation in other countries in Europe, to stop the ongoing chaos with protests, the military power took over in the end, took the control in March 1971, and we witnessed the military coup. Yes. Next. With the very first days of the coup, we were detained together with my husband, and all with a very, very big group of students, workers, intellectuals, and we were hiding a close friend who was followed by the police in our house. This was our problem. I was imprisoned to 6 months, and my husband stayed in prison for 2.5 years as they linked him to other trials. And also, we were deprived of our passports for 16 years after this military coup. This is a press photo when the judge is reading the verdict to our face. I used this photo in one of my installations later. It was quite a time gap in between, because it was after 27 years that I could look at this picture again. And the installation is something like that. Next, please. Next. No, before that. Yeah, this one. As you can see, there is a light line over it saying ideologie, Bühne, regime and control. And this light was going all over the space with this installation. There was the photo, and the light was going all around like a search light in one of the gardens of a prison. So this was the installation I made afterwards. Yes. On the May 1972, the student leaders Deniz Gezmiş, Hüseyin İnan, and Yusuf Aslan were executed in Ankara Central Prison. That was the day that I was released from Izmit prison. Next, please. Yeah. This is how the series of prison paintings came to life. They were done to keep these memories in my mind from the time that I have stayed in this prison. After I was released from the prison, I made these series, which we will see continuously after this, and it was not shown anywhere because, you know, I didn't want to go around and say, I have stayed in the prison and I've made these paintings. No, they stayed in my files for a very, very long time. And it was only 2014, in an exhibition, I had the wish to show them again, you know. And it was good for me to remember everything again. Now, next. Next. Yes. Just wait a little bit. Yeah, stop. During the time I graduated from Fine Arts Academy in Istanbul, the artists could only survive if they had teaching jobs. The art studios in the academy were led by very famous artists of their time, and they were all male, as you could see in the photograph before. You know, all our teachers were male, and still there are not very many women teachers in the academy. It was not possible to get a position until they were retired, and the successors were also male assistants they raised throughout many years. There were no galleries or commercial possibilities except the state painting and sculpture. Next, please. Exhibitions held yearly where the state would buy several paintings from the artist through a competition. It was also possible for the graduates to be the teacher in different state schools. One before. Yeah, okay. The other option in Istanbul for education was an applied art school that was founded by Germans in 1955 on the fundaments of Bauhaus, Werkkunstschules. Adolf Gustav Schenk was commissioned to establish the school program within the program of the State Applied Art School. Decorative arts, graphic arts, ceramic, textile, furniture, interior design were taught. It started as a 3-year high school, then in 1962, making some reforms on the program, they turned it into a 4 years undergraduate program. Yes, next. By the time I started to work there, it was a well-known art school competing with the academy with their innovative approach to arts and crafts, but their ambition was to teach fine arts, and it later affiliated with Marmara University. As you see, again, it turned into a university in 1982 and became the Faculty of Fine Arts. Now we have lots of Faculty of Fine Arts within the compound of universities. This tendency of existing university status left Istanbul without a deeply rooted fine arts academy and also an applied arts school. In 1975, when I applied the State School of Applied Arts, I had been through this whirlpool. The military coup that took place in 71 and what has happened throughout those years really was very hard to cope with. We also had a newborn baby, and after a difficult exam, I received a job in this school and started to teach basic design. Next, please. Yes? Next, please. Yeah. The years between 1975 and 80 was one of the darkest times of the Turkish recent history. After the 71 military coup, everything was moving towards a turmoil that would end up with another coup in 1980 that was worse than the previous one. Nearly every day there were clashes on the streets and students were shot or wounded. This is one of the paintings that I did during that time. As you see, the students are there, but it's like a target. They are so vulnerable that they can be shot everywhere. And I remember this, that every day on the streets there was someone shot, a young person, or, you know. Within these conditions, the education was continuing, but also due to the demands of the rising population in Istanbul with migration from the countryside to the cities to create more space in the universities, the government doubled up the education hours and they added evening classes. Next, please. The teaching staff were to finish the daytime education, that was between 9 and 5 p.m., and starting again for the courses between 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. Also, there was a curfew that started at 12 o'clock, and we all had to reach our homes before that time. It was a preparation for a new military coup, and it happened in 1980, sweeping away our democracy. Next, please. Next. Next. And next. And next. Next. Yeah. Actually, this is a painting dated 1980. And this was the situation with all inside of the homes. When you looked outside to the window, out of the window, what you were seeing, this. Next, please. And, you know, that refers to my history again, that throughout this time, my husband had to go and make his military service for 2 years, again, after this 2.5 years of prison. And that was me with my daughter looking for the road for his return, let's say. Anyway, with all the hard conditions, I was trying to cope with teaching, continuing with my art, but there came a moment that I had to think over what I'm doing. I never felt close to the idea of being an artist and teaching at the same time. Both were very serious positions that demanded too much loyalty and attention at the same level. As a perfectionist, I thought I would not be able to continue with both, so I had to make a choice. So I chose to be the artist and resigned from the Applied Art School in 1981. Next, please. Yeah, the permissive 90s. This is a better time that I will talk about. Next, please. Yeah. My second relationship with teaching begins after a big gap in between. In 1987, I was invited to Munich Fine Arts Academy as a guest professor for a semester after a lecture I gave there about my works. Within those 16 years, so much has changed, and 90s were a turning point for the art and artists in my region. After the fall of Berlin Wall, fall of Soviet regime, and the changes in Middle European countries, many situations as well as art was to be considered again. It was a new era that started the discussions about the center and periphery, postmodernism, postcolonialism. Until then, I was an artist producing within my own country's borders. 90s gave me the chance to communicate with the other parts of the world, the new technical communication possibilities, biennales, large-scale exhibitions brought many artists to work and share their experiences. By the time I was invited to Munich, I already had a chance of working with an alternative group in Zurich Chetalle who were thoroughly involved in projects based on critical thinking, experiences with artistic practice in the social space. This way of thinking of producing was a great passageway for me to relate myself with the students again. Next, please. This is a group of students from my Munich class. And next, please. What we prepared as a class was a critical project, an artistic project in the social space, and it ended with a great party in the end. So it was a good practice together with them. Next, please. Second teaching job that I was invited was IFU, the International Women's University that was hosted by a number of universities in Germany, and I was in Hanover for that. That was a 3-month postgraduate program with a woman-only student body and an international curriculum. 747 women from 105 countries participated, and 313 lecturers, among them names like Saskia Sassen, Gayatri Spivak, Katrin David, from 49 countries participated to this activity. I had a class of 20 students, all coming from different disciplines and from different countries, of course. I challenged to make an art project together with them. Our theme was migration, and the city of Hanover was a good field to work on this with its innumerable dwellers. It was very interesting to make our show in the end that included photography, installation, and even performance as ways of expression with non-artist students. Next, please. This is how we worked with the migrants in their studios, going to their homes and things like that. So it was a very interesting experience to do that for me. Next, please. In 2007 and 2008, I was invited twice to Salzburg Summer Academy, and the courses that we made there were really exciting and full. Yes, next, please. Next, please. Next. This is the opening of my exhibition with the city and the Panther fashion. And with my students, we really experienced wearing all these dresses, which were used for the film, because I displayed them together with the exhibition, with the film and the installation. So it was really good to experience them with my students. Next, please. We had a very, very cold summer, and they were mocking by wearing their... Yeah, next. Next. Next. Next. Yeah. And next. Yeah, this is Royal Academy in Copenhagen. Again, my students working on the topic of identity, which was quite difficult for them because, you know, for Danish people, identity, though, was not a very big problem, but in the end, we really received a very good solution. So I think we all together learned how to think over this theme. Yes, next. They're very busy. Yeah, next. Next. This is, they always were doing a kind of presentation in the end with their installations and with the work they have done. Yeah, next. This is Italy, Academy of Fine Arts in Aquila. This was also very interesting because none of the students knew English. In the beginning, we had a translator, a Polish guy who was translating for us, but in the end, it was totally turned into a language. They were understanding and speaking as they like, and we were continuing with our work. Yeah, next. Yeah, this group of students, and within them there is a Turkish girl also. Yeah, next. Yeah. The lovely atmosphere of an academy again. Yeah. Next. This is totally different. This is Haute École d'Art Appliqué in Geneva. And that was totally, you know, a technical school where we could only work in computers. And that really worked well also. And they made quite an interesting project in the end. We were always choosing to work together, you know, to get over this ego of the artist. So it really worked in the end with all these students. Yes, next. Next. And this is Vienna Fine Arts Academy. Again, it was a lovely, lovely group of girls. Sometimes girls are more effective in having these workshops. Yes, yes, next. But in the end, we finished the workshop on the streets of Vienna. This was the Turkish Market, where the Turkish Market was opening in a district of Vienna. And this, next. And one of my students made a wonderful pole dance with all the palm trees, plastic palm trees on this street, which was very challenging because all the Turkish market people were really surrounded us and wanted to know what has happened in the end. Yes, next. This is Berlin Hamburger Bahnhof Group, where I was having another workshop. Yes, next. Yeah, next. Yeah, this was one of the very interesting workshops that I have done, networking una casa in città, a home in the city, in Regione Toscana, Pontedera. Actually, I wanted to make them. It was a city full of migrants. You know, it was really a good way to work over a house in the city, and I gave them the idea of the Shanty Towns, which were in Istanbul. You know, when the migrants came from the countryside, they were making houses in one night, and when they were covering the top of the house, the police was not able to push them out. So I asked the group, though we were discussing many things, many other things, I asked the group to make a shanty town for themselves and cover it. You know, I told them the story, and in the end they made their own shanty towns. But for that, yes, next. We had to go to the dumps of Pontedera, which was very interesting. They really dived into these very interesting material. Yes, next. Yeah, and they brought in their material to the space, and they tried to build their own houses for themselves. You know. Yeah. Yes, next, please. Next. My work, Modernity Unveiled, Interweaving Histories, was more about Istanbul and Ankara in 1938. A safe meeting place for many exiled Europeans who were running away from the pressure of the Nazis. Such names like Bela Bartok, Paul Hindemith, Bruno Taut, Clemens Holzmeister were given positions in the universities and academies by Atatürk to contribute to the construction of the young republic in a country that was standing out of the chaos of the war. In 1938, Margarete Schütte-Lihotzky, the Austrian woman architect, well known for her contribution to the housing problems and mostly remembered today for designing so-called the Frankfurt kitchen, together with her husband, was called to Istanbul by Bruno Taut, the architect, the German architect. Taut was also running away from fascist Europe and was teaching in the Academy of Fine Arts in an architecture bureau, contributing to the designing school buildings throughout Anatolia. Lihotzky worked in this bureau until 15th of June 1939. On her return to Vienna, she was imprisoned by the Nazis with death penalty. Luckily, she survived in the end. She was there. This was where the village institutes came into scene. You know, it is linked with the village institutes very much. She designed 1 or 2 room village schools while she was in Istanbul. Next, please. Yeah, as you see, Margarete Schütte-Lihotzky is in her balcony overlooking the Bosphorus in Istanbul from Dolmabahce. So it's a very beautiful picture from the time. This was where the village institutes came to scene. She designed 1 or 2 village schools while she was in Istanbul, and probably her plans were the basic proposals for the village schools, village institutes. As an artist, to bring together the story of this woman architect who made a narrow escape from fascism and photographs of the village institute boys constructing their school was my basic intention in this project. Next, please. Village institutes were a group of rural schools in Turkey. In order to educate a generation of teachers, they were the cornerstones of the rural development of projects of the post-war Turkish state. At the time, there weren't many educational institutions in most villages. The institutes helped to educate the rural population. Yes, next, please. From then on, I will show a group of photographs from the village institutes, which I used in my installation. And probably I would have talked about the installation first. Can we go back? One, yeah. Actually, I made a construction which, on the plan of Margarete Schütte-Lichocki, by making 1/3 size of the real plan. The normal school plan that she made, one room was 4 times bigger than this construction that I have made. And inside, I just posed all the photographs of the village institute guys. Yeah. In my childhood, the village institutes were mentioned as the communist nests by some politicians. Some of their graduates were already in prison for their ideas. Throughout those years, we were living through an immature multi-party system behind the so-called Iron Curtain in a bipolar world between the imposed ideas of McCarthyism and the Soviet propaganda experiencing the Cold War. The result was a military intervention ended with the hanging of the prime minister and the 2 ministers in 1961. Again, we go back and we find another military coup. In my country, the education systems continuously change, burying the previous one related to the tendencies of the ruling government. It is unstable and ruled from one center. So as you see, the village institutes in the end was totally diminished. Yeah, so we continue with the photographs. Yes? Yes? So you continue till the end in this rhythm, please. Maybe I should talk about something that these children for the schools were being collected from the villages. And in the villages, the families were not very interested to send their children to school, but in a way, for the boys, they were okay. But for the girls, they didn't want to send them. And the rule was like, yes, we want your son, we will take your son, but unless she brings a sister with her, he can come. So this was a very brilliant idea, I think, to collect children from the rural parts of Turkey, you know. Yeah. Yes? They were all doing agricultural work, building up their own schools. Yeah? Yes? Yes? Yes? Yes? Yes? And these lovely photographs are being taken by an Austrian photographer whose name is not mentioned much. Yeah. Yes? Yes? Yes? Yes? Yes? Yeah, stop. One more. Yeah, stop. Actually, throughout my lifetime, I witnessed the opening of Islamic divinity schools in 1951, closing of the village institutes in 1957, closing of the teacher training schools in 1974, closing of the Gazi Educational Institute, which is founded by Atatürk also, in 1980. In 1981, State Academy of Fine Arts changed its status and became Mimar Sinan University Faculty of Fine Arts. In the following year, the State School of Applied Arts joined Marmara University and became Faculty of Fine Arts, leaving Istanbul without the deeply rooted schools, among others. And this is the situation that I have lived through, you know. But what I have learned from my own experiences that spread over a long time, that binds the decades of a century to the first 22 years of a new one, that art definitely has a role in the society. It cannot change the world as we thought as young artists from 1968 expected, but it creates a domain to reflect over life. It keeps memories. Sometimes it is soothing or very harsh and demanding, but it is so flexible that it adapts itself to its time and always finds solutions to keep up with it. And I like this humble particularity very much about art. So this is what I can say. Thank you for listening. Thank you.